Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much, and welcome to the continuation of our lecture on carbon price. All right. In our previous lecture, we have seen how to secure and harvest the data from the IPCC Data Explorer, Climate Data Explorer. We harvested the data on global carbon price. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the data we harvested. In this lecture, what we're going to do is basically to pick the relevant data points, okay, from this data set. Okay, we are going to pick the relevant data points. Okay, it is not everything here that we need only the relevant ones. Remember, in our first in our previous in when we started, we said step one, we say you have to define a time horizon. So that time horizon that you defined in step one has an influence, overbearing influence, on your data point selection in the midst of multitude of data like this, because you are not going to use all of the data about carbon prices. Okay, you are going to focus on the one that connects or is relevant to the scenario you are building. Okay, remember, we're building a scenario for Boeing Corporation, the biggest aerospace company in the world. Okay, so that's what we are doing. And in our step one, we define our time horizon, two time horizons. We are looking at the transition risk, which is the time horizon where transition risk is in abundance, that is between 2020 to 2035. Okay, we have defined that time horizon. And then the second time horizon is from 2035 to 2050. That's the long time horizon where or when we anticipate that physical climate risk will be in abundance and will manifest much more. Okay, so we have our eyes set on these two time horizons, and therefore we are going to trace the carbon prices that fall within these two time frames, and we will pick them. Okay, that's very important. Another important thing that we did in step one was to define the scenarios, because we are using the IPCC scenario. Don't lose your sight. So we are using the SSPs. The SSP, we know they are the social or shared social economic pathways. That is the meaning of SSP. I know that you know that because you are now an expert in climate risk. Okay, an expert in climate change. All right, so you know that SSP. All right, so SSP 1.9, we are going to pick it. That is our first scenario, but we're not going to pick it anyhow. We have to focus on the year, and in that year we anticipate transition risk. The year target is 2035, but our IPCC allows us to use the intermediate year where we cannot see exactly 2035. We are allowed to pick the intermediate year, the nearest year to that year, and therefore the best practice is to pick 2030. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pick our first carbon price into our model assumption, and this carbon price, have a look, I'm picking from SSP 1.19, and I'm tracing it to the relevant year. Can you see? The relevant year is 2030, and the relevant carbon price is 303.67. So we are copying this and moving it into our model assumption. Okay, so we will copy it and then introduce it here. I'll beg your pardon. I need to, sorry, beg your pardon. So sorry, I'm heading to the wrong place. Okay, so we'll copy it and bring it here. So this is our model assumption that we're building. All right, we're constructing. Ladies and gentlemen, the first input variable into the model, into the climate scenario or climate modeling, is carbon price. So we have got carbon price SSP 1.19. Climate temperature is, we're anticipating, is 1.5 degrees Celsius. All right, Celsius, and we are moving straight to impute that here. All right, We are pasting it, and here you go, ladies and gentlemen. So we are done with this first SSP, all right, which is SSP1, and the global average temperature in this scenario is 1.5. Okay, we're moving to the second, which is this. The second is SSP2. All right, global average temperature is 2.7 degrees Celsius. All right, great. So we are going back again to our carbon price data, and now we will trace and move down to SSP2. SSP2. All right, so SSP2 SSP2, where are you? Where are thou? SSP2. All right, we're moving to SSP2. All right, here we go. This is SSP2. So we are not going to pick SSP2 randomly. We are still within the transition risk horizon, which is 2035. So we'll move to the nearest. Since 2035 is not here, we'll pick 2030, and the carbon price is 95. Okay, it's expected to be 95. We'll pick the 95. Okay, and move it into our model assumptions under the variable carbon price, and here we paste it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're making good progress. I'm excited, and I believe you do too. You are too. Okay, I believe you are excited as well. So finally, SSP5. All right, here we are switching from transition risk to what? To physical risk, which is long-term horizon 2050. So remember, when you are picking variables, all right, data for SSP5 pathways, all right, transition pathway, you must target 2050. It all depends on the horizon you have defined from step one, ladies and gentlemen. In our own case, we have defined the step one horizon we have defined is the long time horizon we defined in step one is 2050. Okay, so we are moving back to our carbon price data set, and we will look for SSP5 down to SSP5. All right, here we SSP5, and we are targeting 2030. So SSP5 2.6 2030. Okay, here are we in 2030, and we are going to pick the carbon price, which is $41.9 per ton. Remember, carbon price is charged per ton of carbon your company is emitting. All right, so you can develop a shadow carbon price in case your country has not yet started carbon taxing regime. You can create an internal mechanism to build your model. That internal mechanism is called shadow carbon price. Okay, it is not imposed by you, by the government, but you have imposed that discipline upon yourself to help the climate, to improve your climate footprint, your carbon reduction footprint. All right, to reduce your carbon footprint. Therefore, you have decided to impose a kind of a self-created or self-imposed carbon price. So you can impose that, okay, and use it for your model. But that has to be agreed and signed off by the management. All right, remember, governors, either the committee, the sustainability board, sustainability committee, or the management committee on sustainability and ESG. That governance structure has to be involved and triggered in that process. Okay, don't do it unilaterally, because it is going to be audited by consultant like myself. All right, ESG and sustainability consultant, you want us to check your report and issue a third party opinion to improve the credibility of your ESG and sustainability report and data. Then we may want to trace it and see the authority on how you arrive at that carbon price. Okay, so that's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So we're picking 4.95, and we're moving back into our into our climate model. And remember to paste it under the right row or right column, which is carbon price, and the row is SSP5. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Now, this is the end of this lecture because this is our target. We want to select the variable inputs from the big set of data set on global carbon price you have downloaded from IPCC dataset, and pick the relevant one, because you might pick wrong ones, but we have successfully picked the relevant, perfect data set and populated this data set into our input variable called carbon price per ton, USD per ton. All right. So these are in USD per every ton, per each ton of carbon your organization releases into the environment, emits GHG. All right, CO2, carbon you are emitting into the environment, you are going to be paying this kind of tax. Okay, that is, these are the projections, these are the pathways we are envisaging. That okay, in this, if the global transition took this pathway of SSP1, the carbon price companies will be paying is going to be $300 per ton. All right. If organizations, if the global transition took this route to, or pathway, economic pathway to transition to net zero or low carbon economy, the carbon tax that companies will be paying majorly globally will be $95. And if the economy goes to the worst case scenario, all right, SSP5 and transition path to low carbon economy, then carbon price is anticipated to be very cheap and low. All right, because there will be huge emission. This will serve as a motivation because the price is low, can easily be paid. Therefore, companies will not care to reduce their carbon footprint, but they can keep on emitting and emitting. After all, we are going to pay just chicken change, just little coins or little change out of our revenue. So why should we bother to invest in transition and invest in renewable energies to make to reduce our carbon footprint? Okay, so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Mission accomplished. Data point populated into our model under the variable carbon price. Thank you very much, and see you in the next lecture. Bye.